Okay, good evening and welcome to the TryPod Round 7 preview. Yep, and they certainly were strange days last week. A few brutal losses, obviously, going 1-4 in our first losing week of the season, but it was just absolutely brutal, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was physically harmed last weekend, and it's going to take a little while to get over. I mean, some of those games, that's the kind of things that will happen to bettors. That's why they call it gambling.
Yeah.
And it's going to happen, but I feel like we had two once-in-a-season kind of events 2 days in a row.
Oh, absolutely.
That hurts. Really hard to pick yourself up after a weekend like that.
Yeah, and it was an absolutely terrible weekend that night. There was actually one good thing, one tiny glimmer of hope that happened on my weekend.
Was there?
Yeah. Well,
that's news to me.
It brought me back even for the weekend.
What happened?
Well, I was out on the weekend, actually. I was pretty drunk, obviously, after some terrible losses earlier in the week, losing two best bets on the Broncos. But I was out waiting for a cab on the corner in the city. It was pissing down rain. I'm waiting. I'm calling an Uber. The guy can't find me. So I'm waiting there. And then this drunk guy crosses the road and he says, "Oh, mate, can I have some directions to this place?" I can't remember where he wanted to go. But anyway, me being the helpful fella that I am, I was like, "Yeah, sure, mate." Pulled out my phone, flinged out of my hand, rolled along the ground and straight into a street drain.
Is that your work iPhone?
That was my work iPhone, yep. And then, even worse, we just sort of stared at each other for a little while. He looked at me and then said, "Oh man, that sucks." And then just stumbled off. And I just sat there sort of with my head in my hands for a few minutes. And then I was like, nah, screw this. I've got to rescue the phone.
It was pouring rain, wasn't it?
It was pouring rain. And I looked into the street drain and there was just water gushing all over it. And I couldn't see anything, so I just turned on Incredible Hulk, lifted it up, jumped in, water was up to my knees, I reached in blind.
Where is it? In the middle of the city?
In the middle of the city.
By the cats somewhere.
Just down from the casino.
Oh my god.
Reached in, found the phone somehow, fully submerged in water for 5 minutes, turned it on, it turned straight on. And that's when I thought my weekend was turning around, but now I know otherwise.
Yeah, it was a killer. We obviously went 1-4 on our 5 best bets.
These things happen though.
Yeah, I felt like three of them were decided on the final play of the game, so,
Yeah, absolutely.
That's tough to swallow.
Definitely.
Why don't we get straight into the takeaways from round 6?
I'll take away that we were on the right side. And you can be on the right side and have the wrong result in any sport. And God, were we on the right side with the Roosters up 18-12 with minutes left. Broncos get through for a try, and Corey Parker slots a conversion that he's the worst kicker in the NRL. And it wasn't a hard kick, but he could easily miss that one. So he slots that. We go to extra time, and Maloney bloody hits the crossbar. He hits the bar on the conversion. If he had one more foot on that one, then it would have been game over. And obviously we had Roosters, and then we also had Broncos under 20.5. And so I thought, obviously at least one of those are safe. But, God forbid, then the Broncos get through for a bloody try. Unbelievable. We lost 2 best bets on that one play.
Well, that's right. I mean, yeah, there's no rule that says Corey Parker has to kick a perfect 5 from 5 the week that we go against the Broncos. That's unlucky in itself. To have a team that scores 12 points in 75 minutes but can put on, the final 10 and score on the final play. Absolutely brutal.
Brutal loss.
One person I'm not blaming for the loss is Roger Tuivasa-Sheck. That guy's absolute quicksilver, signed for the Warriors during the week. That's such a good signing. And he showed that his mind isn't elsewhere. He's still giving his best. And with Blake Ferguson out for the Roosters, he's going to be under even more pressure. But I think he can deliver. He's just about the most electrifying back in the comp.
He is
good. Now, one person I am blaming for the loss on Friday night.
Yeah, please.
Just let me pull out my phone here. So you sent...
Oh, no.
I was at the game, and that's the second time I've been at the game during a best bet against the Broncos.
You said yourself you were never going to bet on a team when they're playing the Broncos and you're going the game.
Yep.
Okay. Moving on. Who are you blaming?
So you sent me this text on Friday night. You said, when it went to extra time, 18-all, you said, at least Brisbane isn't getting over 20.
Yep.
Well, thanks for jinxing the pod, mate. Why would you say that?
I don't know. I don't know what I was thinking. And then straight after, I think it was you. You texted straight after and said, "Don't bloody jinx it, mate. What if the Broncos score a try?"
That's on you.
And then I'm pretty sure I said they won't. And sure enough.
You never tempt fate like that. Like, everything was in play in that golden point. We had Brisbane under 20.5 and we had the Roosters -1. Every result was in play. We could have still gone 2-0.
Yes.
Especially if Maloney would have had just one more week bix on that field goal attempt. Mate, I think you owe the listeners an apology.
Sorry.
Moving on.
Why should I apologise? I lost more than all of them combined.
Moving on. I'm going to say we were so unlucky with the Tigers bet.
Yes.
We had the Tigers
well.
+8.5. I don't want to harp on about it, but when you got a team down 2 with 5 minutes to go, you'd think they would cover 8.5.
Someone else jinxed that. Was it Dwani?
No, Brogan.
No, Brogan jinxed it.
So one of our friends, I was listening to the game on the radio. There was probably a minute to go. I'm listening, and I just get a text from Brogan that just says "ha ha ha," and I knew that meant the Warriors had scored. All I could think to myself was, I hope they score in the corner. And of course, the radio caller has the audacity to tell me that the conversion just snuck inside the post to lose by 10.
Unbelievable.
We would have gone 2-2. We had the Titans. That would have been respectable considering the terrible luck we had. But to lose another one the very next night, I mean, oh, jeez. That's going to leave
And was it a try?
Well, I'm not sure. I mean, it was a 50-50. You think we could get one of those go our way?
Nope. Not at all. Oh, well. We'll pick ourselves back up. Dust ourselves off.
Let's get into betting 101.
Yeah. It makes you feel a little bit better.
Try and spread some knowledge and think about how we can get better this week. And in betting 101, we're going to talk a little bit about injuries because it's topical since that was a costly factor for us on Monday night. That was our 5th and final bet for the round last week.
Definitely.
We had the Bunnies. And we said in the pod last week that one of the main reasons we liked the Bunnies was with John Sutton coming back.
Yep.
Obviously, we were tentative with Reynolds being out, but we felt Sutton could give them some direction and leadership and playmaking in the halves.
Yep.
And then, of course, I think a couple of days after the pod...
it was Friday or something.
Yeah, it was found out that he'd had a setback to his jaw injury and he wasn't going to be coming back.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's another point that we can make, is that we live and die by the decisions we can make on a Wednesday when we release the pod for the people. And if there's a player that's in or out, then the line can move.
Oh,
and
definitely.
You can be on the right side of it, you can get a good line, but you can also get a bad line.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. So, I mean, yeah, we liked it with Sutton in, and then obviously the news came out that he was out, and Cowboys moved into favouritism by Monday. So, obviously, you need to look out for those things. Be checking the team list regularly. I think I don't have Twitter, but it's probably a good idea to subscribe to the Twitter accounts. They usually update the injuries on there as well. But you wanted to talk a little bit about cluster injuries as well. I think it's important because there's a few teams that have that issue at the moment.
Yeah, that's right. So it's one thing to have a player injured. Like Reynolds was out. Reynolds was out for the Bunnies and we weren't afraid to bet on the Bunnies. A few weeks ago, Josh Reynolds was out for the Dogs and we weren't afraid to bet on the Dogs. And when one player is injured, quite often the public hears about it if it's a big-name player, and the reaction is to bet against that team. But quite often, it's an overreaction by the public, and you don't mind betting on a team that's missing a superstar. Another example was James Graham was out for the Dogs, and people are thinking that that's gonna hurt the Doggies. But the difference in that one is when it's a cluster, when you have multiple injuries at the same position. So I wasn't as worried about the Dogs missing Graham as I was that they were missing Graham, Clemmer and Cassiano. It just builds up, and it's the straw that breaks the camel's sack. You've got the Bunnies, they were missing Reynolds. Well, I felt like Sutton could replace that, but then they were missing Reynolds and Sutton, just a bridge too far. So that's what you really need to look out for, especially with players are getting injured every week and the Origin season not too far away, is when a team, and Manly's another example, just got no front row.
Yeah.
And any team, I think, can withstand one injury, other than like a Jonathan Thurston, but it's when you've got multiple injuries at the one position, you've got to really think twice about betting those sides.
Yeah, definitely. And you've probably also mentioned that, I mean, these big-name injuries, it's obviously all over the news, and that's built into the line, and sometimes you just have to dig a little bit deeper for those lesser-known injuries. There might be, obviously a big forward out in James Graham, but then you've also got two sort of lesser-known players, I guess, to the general public. So that's sort of not as built into the line. So sometimes the big-name players are out. That's already built into the line, but you have to dig a little bit deeper sometimes.
100%. And since we're on the topic of injuries, let's wait no longer
Yep.
to start previewing round 7. You've got two teams that are pretty beat up right now. It's the Bulldogs hosting Manly.
Yep, and we've got the Bulldogs laying 1.5 and the total sitting at about 38 to 39 points. This is right off the bat a stay away from me. Obviously, the Bulldogs get Josh Reynolds back, but Manly also gets Jamie Lyon back. You just don't know what to expect here. They're both a little bit beat up, missing some of their key players. This is a pure coin toss for me. And I don't see any value in either side, unfortunately, so it's a stay away.
Yeah, it was a pretty tight game. They probably only met a month ago, and we actually took the Dogs in that game. But it's not the same Bulldogs team this week, missing just a few key forwards. And Manly, I just hate going against the side with class halves like Cherry Evans and Four, and especially off a couple of embarrassing losses. Yeah, I think both teams are going to be up for this game. It's not going to be pretty. It's going to be low scoring. It's going to be tight. I can't find a side I like in this game.
Stay away. Agreed. So we got the Dragons hosting the Broncos. St George catching 2.5 points and the over-under about 38.5 to 39.5.
And as you said, Brisbane found a way to win, and credit to them. They've done the same thing every week. They turn up for their coach. They play hard. They defend well, and they keep themselves in games. And we can definitely both debate whether or not they should have won last weekend, but they give themselves a chance to win every week. It's a side that's improving every week. Definitely a side that I'm still not drinking the Kool-Aid on. They're probably overrated at this stage, and I want to take St George, but I'm not taking St George because they're only getting 2.5 points. They're still missing... They got Ben Cray back, but they're still missing Dan Hunt, and they lost Tyson Frizzell, T-Frizzle, to a striking charge, I think it was, to a high tackle. He's suspended now, and he's actually had a really beastly season. So, with that in mind, that St George aren't at full strength either, not enough points for me there, so I'm staying away from this one too. I'm snake bitten by the Broncos.
Bloody Broncos. I completely agree. Broncos are playing some really good footy. Everyone saw them win, obviously, against the Roosters on Friday night. So they're coming in a little bit overvalued. Public's on them. But at the same time, so you obviously can't take Broncos. The value's been sucked out. But you can't take St George either. They're coming off a whopping win last week. What did they win by? 25 points or something. I don't like taking teams off a really big win. These are two fairly evenly matched sides. Broncos and St George coming in with some pretty good form. I'll probably wait and see what the outcome of this is, and then decide perhaps playing the loser next week.
You've also got the short turnaround for St George, backing up Sunday to Friday, as opposed to Brisbane, that almost always plays on a Friday and gets that continuity
that's right.
in their preparation.
Now the next one, so that's a stay away from us. The next one, we've got the Titans hosting Penrith. Now this is games basically at a pick 'em. Gold Coast slight favourites now, but no lines up. They're at $1.87. They've actually come in a fair bit. They were actually 2-point dogs a few days ago. And obviously, Jamal Interest getting injured has moved that line. Yeah,
and that's an interesting one too. Probably two sides that I think are a little bit better than people realise and probably haven't shown their best footy. Or having said that, Gold Coast came from a try down to win by 20 on the weekend, and that was our lone winning best bet. We were on the Titans. We definitely believe in their forward pack, and it's a back line that plays some solid footy. Penrith's definitely a solid football team, but I'm still not convinced that they're firing on all cylinders without Soward. I'm not going to jump out of my way to play this team until Soward's back. As you said, Idris is out as well. Might touch on that one a little later. So for me, it is a pretty tight game. I'm thinking of taking Penrith, but I think Gold Coast might have built a little momentum. I'm probably staying away from this one too.
Yeah, and I'm going to have to agree. I won't go into this one too much because I know you have a bit to say about Jamal Idris' injury later on. But that can hurt a team's confidence as well, just knowing that one of your star players is gone for the season. The Titans obviously coming in with some decent form with a big win last week. But once again, don't want to take them because obviously they, once again had a huge win last week, so it's a stay away from me as well. Next up, we've got the Cowboys hosting the Warriors. Cowboys laying 8.5, and the total is anywhere from 43.5 to 44.5.
And, cast your mind back 2 weeks ago, didn't we say, what Jonathan Thurston was able to do in the final 3 minutes of that Storm game has completely swung their season, because they were looking down the barrel of 0-4, and then with road trips to Penrith and to the Bunnies, and 0-6 start to the season. People saying they could be 0-6, You can't make the finals if you start 0-6, where here they are sitting at 3-3. It's unbelievable. It really has turned it around. And, definitely they got lucky in that game, but momentum is a real thing, and confidence is a real thing, and this team is humming, and it's a really tough side. Now they go back to Townsville, back to Dairy Farmers. You don't want to take them on, but you don't really want to lay 8.5 points with the New Zealand side that we've said we think we can make some money on. This New Zealand side is solid. They're still waiting to get Tompkins back, and until that happens, I'm not going to take 8.5, because I don't want to get out in front of this Cowboys juggernaut.
Yeah, no, I agree, and obviously Cowboys coming in with some red-hot form on the back of their last 3 wins. Look, 8.5, it's a lot of points to lay, but at the same time, yeah, you're right. I mean, I don't want to take 8.5 with the Warriors. They don't travel that well. So once again, this one's a stay away from me. So that'll wrap up our first 4 games of the round.
Yep, no best bets so far. Well, maybe we are a little snake bitten, although hang in there. We do have a few best bets coming up in the second half of the pod. But first, just a word from our sponsor.
This episode of the TryPod NRL Betting Podcast is proudly brought to you by F-Sanity, the Performance Athletic Association. Check out our new sporting apparel on Instagram today.
Wait for it.
Thanks, Evan, and once again, feel free to check out his website, Instagram, obviously, follow him. He makes some good stuff.
Yeah, we've got the pod and Evan share a lot of similarities with changing people's lives, and I can see he's done that for quite a few people, so get involved.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do actually have a question from Evan, and he says, Pod, is it too early to recant your previous statement that the Broncos will not make the top 8? They've been making it very hard to bet against lately.
Look, fair point, but I think if we go back into the annals of our first...
Did you say annals?
Pod, yep, that's a word. How
do you spell it?
Is it double? Never mind.
Yep.
I think that's a word.
You love going back into the annals.
It's double N. I'm fairly sure.
Okay.
Can we check that? We'll get.
You want to check the annals?
No, we'll check it later.
Okay.
I think we did say that Brisbane's making the 8. I reluctantly put them in as a bottom 4 side, a bottom 4 of the top 8.
Okay.
I had them 6th, I think, for the season, because there's just too much talent on that side. My question mark was about how well they would start the season. And look, not going to argue with a 5-1 record, 5 straight wins. Definitely turning up every week, as I said before. But I think they've caught a couple lucky breaks as well, in terms of the teams that they've played haven't always shown up. And, a couple of games that have come down to the wire.
Don't talk about it anymore.
We've spoken about it. Quite enough.
That's enough.
I've got a question here from Simon in Perth, and he said, guys, it's epic to see your NRL bets winning at such a high percentage. But I haven't forgotten about how much money you guys are making betting on American sports. This might be way out of line, I know it's an NRL pod, but with tomorrow being the final night of the NBA season, any money on the ground?
Funny you asked that. Who was that from? Simon.
Simon says.
Yeah, well, we did make a fair bit of money in the off season on the NBA, and obviously we do follow the NBA fairly closely, and the playoffs are coming up, very soon. There's one play I really like, and heading into the back end of the season, especially the last few games, you have teams resting players, teams jockeying for positions, teams that may want to, obviously throw games, teams fighting for their lives, that sort of thing. So there's definitely value to be found. I really like the Bucks up against the Celtics tomorrow. The Celtics had a grinding win today over the Raptors. And gosh, they put in a big effort there. They played all their starters. It was a tough game. Celtics coach has come out and said that he's probably going to be resting some players tomorrow or playing them limited minutes. Now, Jason Kidd, the coach of the Bucks, has come out and, he hasn't come out and said, but this is a chance for the Bucks to have their first winning season in about 6 years or so. So they're going to want to do that. It's a cheap line, -1, laying a point with the Bucks. That's a good price for me, and that's my bet of the round.
I'm all over that like you on a cupcake, mate. I couldn't agree more. And I think it's quite topical that we're taking a side that's probably going to rest all their best players, because we've spoken a lot about knowing when personnel are in or out. Yeah, 100%. Look for the Milwaukee Bucks. I think you can get them -1 tomorrow. And
Best bet.
That actually leads us into, as we've said, we do bet on the NBA. We've actually never lost a best bet on the NBA in the pod. We went 12-4 over the off-season betting all American sports, which is a 75% clip. Made money for our off-season listeners.
Yep.
And it's been an awesome NBA season. It's a great time to follow the NBA. There's so many superstars. It's going to be a great playoffs. They start this weekend.
Definitely.
So we're actually excited to announce that as a bonus pod, we're going to be doing the Ball So Hard NBA betting pod this weekend.
This again, a Smith screen, Posey will defend. Oh! LeBron James with no regard for human life.
Thanks, LeBron. And this is exciting, because we've been watching a lot of NBA, and it's been an awesome season, and there's going to be some good first-round playoff matches, that's for sure.
And good opportunities to make money. We have got regard for human life. We want to make it better. We want to make you guys some money. So keep your ears open. If you're interested in NBA, or you just want to make money, if you like money, look out for that pod. It'll be coming up this weekend.
Who doesn't
Ball
like
So
money?
Hard. Ball So Hard NBA pod.
So hot, that she crack. Ain't it Jay? So hot, what she order? Fish fillet.
Excellent. I'm very excited for that one. I love talking NBA. But on with the viewer questions. So we've got Nettie from B-Town. Now he says, are the Panthers done for the season now that Idris is gone?
And I don't think they are. I think this is a case where it's not so much the player that you're missing. One thing to lose a player, but what I look at is the value over their replacement. So when you lose a guy like Jonathan Thurston, there is no replacement. No matter what, you're going to have a significant drop-off. But when you lose a guy like Idris, I think that this Penrith team is so loaded with back rowers and with young centres and young outside backs that I really don't think there's going to be too much of a drop-off for the Panthers. There's a guy called Wonga Blake. I think he had his debut on the weekend. He scored a try. He's an absolute beast. I think they can still regroup, and I think this is a team that's just going to quietly go on about their business. Hasn't got a lot of national attention yet, but is going to be a contender in a few weeks' time.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a question for you. Last question here. Cindy from the Goldie.
Cindy.
And Cindy says, can the Titans or Eels finish in the top 4 next year with the gains of Foran and Cherry Evans?
No.
You heard it here first.
No. Not a chance. Foran's great, and I actually rate Foran really highly. They're obviously paying them both a lot of money going over there. But that's going to take a lot of time to gel with them as well. Look, they've got solid teams at the moment and they're doing all right, but I mean, there's still, I would say, once they even go there, there's going to be at least 5 teams that are going to be above them next year. So, as a short answer, no, I don't see either of those teams making the top 4 next year. Possibly the top 8, though.
There you go. You want to get back into the rest of the...
Let's get back into the rest of the round.
Preview.
So, on when have we got here? That would be a Saturday. We've got the Storm hosting the Roosters. Now, this game is sitting at Pickham at the moment, and we've got the total anywhere from 38.5 to 40.5.
To me, this game, Sydney in Melbourne, is the Roosters-Broncos game.
Yep.
Number 2. It's really the same game, except I don't think Melbourne's as good as
You're not
Brisbane.
going to the game.
Yeah, well, that's a positive. And another positive, from our point of view, once you hear our best bet, is that Melbourne aren't as good as Brisbane. Now, Melbourne's probably won 4 out of their first 6 games. I think they've had the easiest schedule of any team in the league. They haven't played any of the big guns yet. And they've really been lucky in the sides that they've played. They played the Sharks before the Sharks had brought in Jack Bird, and the Sharks spotted them an 18-point lead. They played Raiders.
Yeah, and they were down 10-2.
Yeah, that's right. They got to, they played Manly, and actually they didn't win that game.
No.
So this Melbourne team is really not that good. Now, throw in the fact that Billy Slater's injured as well, and he actually did look a little bit healthier this year. I've really got a Melbourne team that hasn't impressed me at all against a Roosters team that's got to be smarting.
Mm-hmm.
Bad teams, they feel sorry for themselves after they lost, a little in the way that we felt sorry for ourselves after that round. But a good team bounces back. I think the Roosters, now Jake Friend's into the starting side.
Yep.
It's just a far better team. It's a team that still can absolutely win the comp. They're not losing 3 games in a row. For me, I love the Roosters in this spot. I think they're going to shut the Storm down.
I agree, yeah. And I think at pick and price that is cheap. Obviously, that's reflecting a little bit what happened last week. A win over Canberra isn't great, but it's still a win. And then obviously everyone seeing the Roosters capitulate against the Bronx on Friday night. Pick'em's a cheap price for me. But on top of that, I think that the forwards are going to dominate. I think they're going to, as you said, shut the Storm down. And I cannot see the Storm scoring 3 tries, maybe 2 even in this game. So I like them to go under the team total of 20.5. Make sure you shop around a little bit because the totals are varying, but I don't think they're going over 20.
Well, that's why I've got deja vu in this game, because we are playing almost the exact same bets. The odds are very similar to the Brisbane game. The total's very similar, and we're making basically the same bets.
Mm-hmm.
We need Sydney to win, and we need Storm under 20.5. Surely not again. Surely.
So the Storm are scoring a try in extra time.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Yep. Oh, very good. All right, so that's our first, 2 best bets. Double header. So take the Roosters at Pick'em and then take the Storm team total under 20.5. We've got the Tigers hosting the Raiders. Tigers 7.5 to 8.5 point favourites. And we've got the the total at 43.5 to 44.5.
Yeah, Tigers are a good side. Spoke about the Warriors game already. That game was lost when they conceded 22 straight points in the early in the first half. Look, as much as the Tigers were within 2 points and really should have covered that game, we'll take responsibility for going against Manu in his 200th game. That was always a risk, and that New Zealand crowd was on going crazy, and they were on fire, and they really just took the game away from West. But having said that, West came all the way back. A lot of teams, if they get 4 straight tries put on them,
they'll fold.
Yeah, at Mount Smart Stadium, they're folding and they're losing by 40. And the Tigers came all the way back to 2. It's a good side. It's a young side. It's got a lot of talent. Very much the opposite of Canberra. There's little talent here, but what they do have is a lot of heart. They're going to play teams tough every week. They're going to defend well. They're going to complete sets, and they're going to make the other side beat them. They don't want to beat themselves. So I see an arm wrestle here. I think both teams off a loss. Should be low scoring. Yeah,
I agree with you. Obviously, the Tigers are going to want to sharpen up on their D. Letting in 28 points against the Warriors. Canberra's got to be kicking themselves being up.
Actually, I think you'll find they let in 32.
32 it was too.
Remember that well because
yes,
it
you're
killed
right.
us.
You're right. Oh, Lanta. Raiders have got to be a little bit pissed off as well. I mean, they let a 10-2 lead go. Lost 14-2 to the Storm last week. They're going to want to pick up on their defense as well. But I don't see the Raiders putting on a ton of points in this game. I think they're going to try hard, and they're going to put in a lot of effort. It's going to be an arm wrestle, as you said. And this is actually the highest total of the round.
Well, that's what was funny to me. It jumps out at me, this total.
It's crazy, yeah. It seems awfully high for me. And obviously, the tab thinks this is going to be a bit of a blowout, but the Raiders put in effort. And that, obviously a 14-10 loss to the Storm isn't terrible last week, but the defense held up well. I mean, they only let in 2 tries it was. So I really like this game to go under 44.5. That's a lot of points.
Yeah, I've seen the total between 43.5 and 44.5. That's probably 4 to 6 points too high for me. 100% with you. Let's take the under in that game.
Let's take the under. Under 44.5. Tigers hosting the Raiders. Next up, we've got the Knights hosting Para. Now we've got the Knights laying anywhere from -7.5 to -8.5. And then we've got the game total at 41.5 to 44. You want to take this one away?
Again, you got 2 teams that are both on riding 2-game losing streaks.
Yep.
So it's a big game. I think it's going to be tight. I think no one wants to lose 3 in a row at this stage of the season. I believe in the Knights. They're a strong side, although obviously not as strong as they can be without Bo Scott. For Para, still a couple of injuries, still missing Radra, who's just an absolute weapon, and you've got to add 6 points to Para's score anytime he's playing, because he will find a way to score from nothing. But with that said, this is another game that I think is going to be really tight. I think both sides conceded more than 20 points last week. They're going to want to deal with that. Parramatta probably didn't deserve to concede 38 points with the two tries being intercepts, but don't throw the ball to James Roberts.
Yes. And we've said this before, we've taken a few unders this week that have served us very well. When a couple of teams are coming off blowout losses, where they've conceded a lot of points, often they'll turn up the next game and really show up in defence. So I think 44 is a high total here. I think it's going to be an arm wrestle game, and I don't see 44 points being scored here. So I'm happy to make that a best bet if you're on board.
Yeah, that's another best bet for me.
Excellent.
4 for the round.
So it's 4 for the round so far. And next up we've got the Sharkies hosting the Rabbits. Now the Sharkies plus 3.5 in the game total, 38 to 40 points.
And I know you want to take South Sydney in the spot.
I do.
And, a good team, as I just said before, a good team will bounce back. But the problem is, there's another good team in this game, and that's the Sharkies. Are you on board with me yet? Are they winning the comp?
No, you love the Sharks.
So, I said they can win the comp, not that they will. I really do believe that this team's a contender. And, they took another step in the right direction on Friday night. It's a good side. All the same points I made last week. It's a hell of a forward pack. It could be the best in the comp. And they're developing combinations and weapons in the back line. But at the same time, I'm not going against South Sydney, obviously, because they still have GI, and he a monster.
He is a monster. I'd like to take South Sydney in this spot, but I respect your opinion. But this line was above 4 early in the week, obviously. Then Cronulla won, and the Rabbits got blown out by the Cowboys. I'm happy to let this one slide for this week. If I had to lean aside, I'd lean heavily towards Souths. Glenn Stewart's obviously going to be in 5/8 again. Got another extra day or another extra week to prepare. But I'm happy to stay away from this one. That's 4 best bets for the week. I'm happy with that.
That's right. So 4 best bets. Really quickly, take Sydney, take Brisbane under the total, take West and Canberra under the game total, take Knights and Eels under the game total. And that should
Boom!
That should get us back in the win column.
Yep.
So don't forget, get involved in the pod, give us a like, a share.
Yep.
We're 16-7, which is still
really good.
Really
Really good.
Cash and bets, cash and checks and snapping necks.
Yep.
Shout out to Brady. I know he's a fan of the show.
Yes.
8-leg multi.
What did he put on that? $5? Was it $5? $10?
I think he had a tenner on it.
Tenner on it. Perfect round, head to head.
Shout out to you, Brady. You're the man.
Yeah, absolutely. And he had a chance. He's got some big balls, that guy, because he had a chance to cash out $380 before the Monday night game, and he opted to not do that. He let it ride and served him well.
Didn't think twice. And if we can just harness a little bit of Brady's wisdom, we'll go all right. As we said, keep your eyes out, keep your ears out for the Ball So Hard NBA betting pod coming up.
When are we going to do that? Probably a couple of days' time?
Yeah, that'll be coming out definitely this weekend. So the playoffs are going to be going on for the next couple of months. Awesome opportunity.
Awesome.
It's going to be really exciting and great opportunity to earn some more money and learn a bit about betting on American sports. And finally, don't forget to look out for Mixed Picks.
Yep.
Obviously, he went ultra conservative last week. Just had the one.
He didn't lose a leg last week.
Yeah,
he just had the one.
It's easy to not lose a leg when you have one favourite that just needs to place. But
keep your eyes peeled for him. That'll be out Friday when we release our best bets in writing.
Pod let Mixed Picks down last week.
It did.
We'll be interested to see which ones he chooses this week.
Yep.
And see how he goes. He's definitely due.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know he's a bit of a fan favourite. Mick, yeah.
He's got a
cult
cult
to get
following.
on board. He does, yeah.
He's got an uncanny ability, you'd say.
Lucky they can't see his face. It's only radio.
You can say the same about us.
Well, that's true.
Most importantly, have a great weekend and please gamble responsibly.